Each and every day, enjoy the Simple Six menu at Subway. An entire made-for-you meal featuring one of 6 6-inch sandwiches like the Italian BMT or Black Forest ham, with any bag of chips and a 21-ounce drink, all for only $6. Subway. Eat fresh.
The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. The BS Report. The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
South by Southwest, we're in Austin. Horatio Sanz, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. What a beautiful set you have here.
Thank you. Are you a basketball fan or no? Are you a sports fan?
I'm a sports fan, mostly Chicago sports.
So I was dating a girl in Chicago in the mid-'90s, and I saw you.
Yeah.
In which improv group was that?
I was probably at Improv Olympic or maybe Second City.
That's what it was, Second City. Yeah, and it was early, and it was like you kind of just jumped out. And it was like, all right, I'm that guy.
Oh, yeah?
Something's gonna happen with that guy.
Oh,
I
thank you.
Feel it. I'm gonna say it was like 97. And then you were on SNL like 2 years later. I was like,
Yeah. 98.
Yeah. So how long were you on SNL? Like 7 years,
98
right?
to 2006.
Did you go back for SNL 40?
I did.
How was it?
It was great. I smoked the joint with Keith Richards.
You did?
That was the highlight. That was the biggest highlight. Then I hung out with Lucy Liu and watched like Prince and that. So
the Prince thing was legendary, right? Like Jimmy Fallon called him up, and
I was out front, and then I heard Prince. I'm like, oh, they're playing Prince. Maybe there's dancing going on. And someone's like, no, it's Prince. So we all ran and watched that. And then afterwards, Jimmy's like, you should have jumped on stage. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. But yeah, I'm going to jump on stage with like whoever the hell was there.
Miley Cyrus, and
put my arm around Prince and, I don't know. But so I didn't do that, but it was definitely a cool party.
Did you think that show was going to work when they were telling you about everything, all the people that were coming? Were you thinking like 3 hours, how are they going to do this?
Right, I thought we were going to come out cast by cast, kind of each generation, and then they were going to just show like 10, 15 minutes of clips.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that people were actually going to do sketches and that other, hosts would come in and do old sketches.
Yeah.
But I think we were all really pleasantly surprised how they put it together. I think it was an entertaining show.
What was it like just to watch that unfold in person?
There's this excitement in that building,
Yeah.
when you're going live, and everything kind of feels like there's a little cloud over it, and you're in one area, and Steve Martin's doing something, and you're just all. Most of them, I wasn't on camera very much because I was backstage.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with Daryl, and Daryl, because Daryl's still there.
Yeah.
And so we hung out in his room because you could smoke in there. So everyone would come by, Dan Aykroyd and Chappelle came in. And I asked Chappelle if he wanted to smoke, and he's like, nah, I'm drinking tonight. So he was drinking that night.
Made a choice early.
So yeah, he made his choice early, yeah. Everybody made their choices early.
When you started on that show, how nervous were you on a scale of 1 to 10? Because I'm sure when you're at the different improv things, it's like someday that might happen.
What's interesting is when you saw me at Second City, that house has like 300 seats.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing at SNL, really.
Yeah.
That's the audience that's in the building. Obviously, there's millions watching at home. So there was something that kind of led to an ease at SNL that I had at Second City.
Yeah.
We're kind of just taking it to a different stage and literally kind of trying to get these people, the 300 people to laugh so that it'll be on the air for the 5-10 million.
Right.
So yeah, but luckily for me, David Spade told me, he goes, are you nervous? I'm like, no. He's like, do you get excited? I'm like, yeah, I'm excited now. But before I go on stage, I guess I can relax pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like a safe place, so I don't get that nervous if I'm doing something familiar.
It seemed like you and Fallon kind of latched onto each other a little bit on the show with a whole bunch of different things. Was this something like you guys were hanging out off the set or whatever, and then it kind of would translate into the bits you came up with?
We were hired at the same time, and then we shared an office.
Oh.
So there's a lot of downtime, and especially because we both moved to New York, at that time. So we basically had, when you move to a place, you kind of hang out at work a lot. And so we hung out together, and we didn't really know what we were doing. But in the meantime, let's go out and have a drink. Let's go out and do this. Let's go out and do that. And we became quick friends.
And he's an Irishman.
He'll
have a couple.
He likes to have a few. He has a couple kids now, so maybe he slowed down a bit. But definitely when we were hanging, that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like how like the webcam in college, how does that happen? Who comes up with that? How does that one unfold?
Jimmy comes
what was
up
it?
with
Gobi's room was called?
It was called Jarrett's room.
Jarrett's room.
Jarrett, Jimmy
you were
plays
Gobi.
Jarrett, and I was Gobi.
Yeah.
So basically, I came in and I had like a pot joke.
Right.
Usually a song.
I watched most of those when I was high, so I love those more than anything.
Great.
It just really resonates in a different way
I always thought that. I always thought that there was a nice connection with people, and then people offered me marijuana all the time.
Yeah, well, that was an unexpected benefit, I'm sure, from having that character.
But it wasn't really a benefit. I also won High Times Man of the Year.
What?
Because of Gobi. I mean,
that's
a
amazing.
big honor. 2003, High Times Man of the Year. And I don't take that lightly.
What is that banquet? What's that banquet like?
It was a great banquet. They were handing out joints to everybody, and it was in New York City. And you're like, how is this happening? But somehow it was all happening.
Yeah.
And I didn't smoke at the time. I just drank, because when I drank and smoked at the same time, it was terrible. I would like hide underneath my table.
Right.
Kitchen table. So I was there, and I kind of I got the award, but it was really kind of a fake thing because I wasn't a stoner at all.
What did the award look like?
The award was
Was it like shaped like a
marble.
bong?
There was exactly. There was a marble base that had Man of the Year on it.
Yeah.
Horatio Sanz, and then on top there was a bong that was,
And it would only be fitting. It would only be fitting if it got accidentally broken after like 3 years.
You know what? The bowl got broken.
Yeah, of course it
But
did.
I replaced that, so I still have it.
Who else were the High Times Men of the Year? Like, what kind of esteemed company?
Big. I mean,
who was it?
Pauly Shore, me, and Chappelle. And
No rappers? How's that
I think I'm the only
possible?
one that made it on time.
Oh, so
And
they gave it to you?
Yeah.
Kind of ironic, considering what the award was.
Yeah.
That some people might have gotten derailed.
Yeah, exactly. And years later, though, I guess I felt guilty that I got that award. So I've been trying to kind of smoke and see what that's like.
Right.
For
Belatedly.
medicinal reasons.
Yeah, belatedly.
Yeah. I'm a card-carrying, patient.
You live in California?
Yes.
It's
Joint pain.
It's easy to get it in California.
Sometimes my hair hurts if I wear a hat too long.
Right.
So I smoke weed for that.
Anxiety, maybe?
There's underneath my Rolex, it gets sweaty and I freak out. So I'll have an indica for that. And so it's a very nice thing, and I'm very happy with it.
Did you ever at any point when you were doing all that stuff with Fallon think he was going to go on and host the Tonight Show? Was that ever in your head?
Jimmy's so talented. Like, the thing with Jimmy is that he was like a sponge. I truly didn't think his comedy was that good when he started, but he picked up from everyone, including me.
Yeah.
And I just saw he had this confidence and this energy. He was like a Mickey Mouse kid.
Yeah.
He knew how to dance. He could sing. I mean, he had all these impressions. So I just figured when he gets like his comedy brain beefed up, I figured he's going to be a movie star actually.
Yeah.
Because it started happening pretty fast for him.
Yeah.
But the Tonight Show, no, I didn't see it. But obviously, it's an awesome fit for him.
Yeah, it seemed like he was going to head toward that same strategy that happens with a lot of SNL stars, where they do the show and it becomes a breeding ground to just start making comedies.
Thing,
yeah. You were the first generation after that Sandler cast, which was really the cast that everybody used it as a stepping stone to do other stuff. And then you always hear about like the people that came after that. It was like, oh, they did the show, but all the stuff's getting offered to them right away. Like, could you see that happening when you were there? Bad scripts, all that kind of all the ways it could go wrong potentially.
Yeah, exactly, because you're hyper aware that you should be doing something.
Yeah,
and I think the curse of that show is that you can't really enjoy it as much as you should, because you're just always constantly worried and like trying to figure stuff out.
Not getting airtime.
Exactly.
I'm
That's
not
the
on
most
tonight's
important
show.
thing. Yeah, I have to at least write something so that I could at least have a lottery ticket to this show.
Yeah.
Because if you don't write, you're just done.
Right.
And so for Jimmy, I just, that movie he didn't work out, and I don't know how much he really wanted to be a movie star. And when this happened, he was working with Lauren, so it was a perfect fit. And, it just fits perfectly. He's the only one who can do anybody, impersonate anyone. And he's just very likable.
Your cast wasn't that big, especially when you joined. And I always think the cast should be smaller. And I did a podcast in Lauren's office like in November, and it was the one thing I forgot to ask him about. And then we talked about it after we finished taping, because I was basically like, I think it's like a basketball team. You want to build around, you have like your 9-man rotation.
You have your tall white guy.
Right, well, true. They have different sizes.
So more like a hockey team.
Well, but sometimes the show will have 16 people on it, and it's just there's not enough space to get everyone in, and then it's like, but he actually said he thought it was more like a baseball team, which I thought was really interesting. And he's like, you have different people, like you have pitchers, and you have your third baseman. I'm trying to do a Lauren impersonation, but the way he explained it actually
is like a slugger that you put in a ninth,
right,
and he hits the grand slam.
And he tries to go deep. But,
he strikes out a lot.
But he actually,
but, he goes for it.
You had a good relationship with Lauren, right? Or
I did.
Spotty?
Spotty.
You're hesitating.
I'm hesitating because everyone has a very fatherly, not enough love, fatherly relationship with him.
You're trying to constantly win his affection. Win
his affection, and not just like, hey, Lauren, I like you, you like me. It's more like, I want to make that guy laugh. And then after that, to be in his good graces is certainly a lot better than to not be. So if you let him in to your process, he feels like, oh, cool. Like it's a little thing. Like if you make him feel part of it, because he basically wanted me to do the Christmas sketch again, the Christmas song, because his dentist really liked it. So he goes, my dentist really likes it. So let's do it again. And so I would always ask him, like, well, the idea is that we're all in Christmas sweaters, and it's kind of like from the 60s, or like an Andy Williams Christmas thing, but just gone
bonkers.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
And so then he would pick the outfits. He would like go, it should be a sweater this time, or it should be velvet red jackets this time, So that was a really cool, that was how, like, the most we collaborated, because everything else was through writers.
I love the Christmas song.
Thank you.
I felt like it had a chance to really become like a real Christmas song that would move into the short list of, all the different ones. They did like, like White Christmas and all that stuff.
Well, it was used in an Acura commercial this year. So you heard it a lot probably during football.
Yeah.
And I didn't see much of that. But
so when the SNL, they redid the paperback last year, Jim Miller's thing, and a lot of it was updated from the last 10 years. I thought you were one of the most interesting interviews. Like a lot of the people hold back, but you were really candid about stuff you liked and didn't like. Like, were you worried about being candid?
Yeah, but the way I saw it is like this book comes out, and the first book came out, and they basically were just wanting to find like juicy bits, and like who did you hate, and like who was that? And so to give them what they wanted, I kind of like I mentioned the guy, and so then the last time I had the next time they called, I wasn't working for the show anymore, and I'd had enough time where I wasn't worried about hurting Lauren's feelings or hurting anyone's feelings, really. But I am fair about the show. I'm not like
I thought you were
bitter
fair
at all. I love the show, and I love watching it, and I love being there. But I just thought that there were some things that they could have done differently politically at the time, and I blamed one of the writers.
Right. So did you regret that after the fact, or no?
No. I mean, I still think it's... I mean, the guy's a genius, but his politics are kind of... and they're not with the show. But since he's such an honored writer...
You're talking about Jim Downey.
Jim Downey.
Yeah.
And I don't really know Jim Downey, but I know that I've worked with him, and I just didn't like, that the show... Like, for instance, when Pelosi took over, the sketch that we did that week was Pelosi, because she's from San Francisco, she was wearing a S&M outfit. And I was like, what?
You're right.
That's what you get out of that story?
Yeah.
Is that everyone in San Francisco is so weird that they're wearing leather and whipping each other.
Right.
And it was that kind of like conservative bull that I was against, and I figured, what the hell? Let's put it in print. I'm not afraid of. I wasn't afraid of people being upset because, it's the truth,
what do you
and
care?
I felt it. Yeah, exactly.
It is crazy how much the show can affect the political destinies of certain people. Like, I really feel like SNL, in a big part, ruined Sarah Palin. I think it really hurt George Bush, and then
it helped George Bush too. W.
I'm talking about the Carvey Bush.
Okay, yes.
It was so hard to separate real George Bush from Carvey Bush that I actually feel like it hurt him in some way. But then when Hartman used to do Clinton, It actually made me like Clinton more, like whatever his. But it's just weird. It can kind of nudge you in different directions.
And Daryl's Clinton is very charming, charismatic.
And that
funny.
Became a different one.
And then so you like that character, and you're
right?
Like, that's the guy I'm voting for,
right?
And the same thing when W, when that election came up and it was really close. I mean, we're talking about 10,000 votes maybe, with the difference in Florida and all that.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking that if people are on the fence and they watch SNL and they see Will Ferrell being W and having a beer and being a bro, I think that maybe pushes it over. We're talking about 10 million people that are watching that. And to say that maybe 10,000 of those would be swayed by the television show isn't too crazy.
The show exaggerates whatever weird traits you might have, good and bad.
Yes.
And with the wrong politician, it can just make them look like a buffoon. And actually, I thought Kate McKinnon did a Hillary Clinton in the last episode that was pretty savage for, like, they usually don't go after Democrats like that. But it was pretty brutal. I was thinking, like, wow, if they keep this going, this actually could affect things a tiny bit. Like, really made her like a character.
I mean, I'd like the show to be more like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind the show, like, I just think that the politics of everyone there, the writers and the actors, is different than that. And so I think that in the spirit of the show as it was when it started, it should be a little anti-establishment, a little less conservative.
Right.
So I think that the message of the show has become less about, these leftist politics and more just about being popular.
But it's like anything else, right? When you become part of the establishment, it's tough to position yourself as anti-establishment, I think, to some degree. And I think that's part of the issue.
Fish can do it.
Who can?
Fish. Bands like Fish, they do their thing and they say their thing. And, I think SNL would still is still where it's going to be no matter what they do.
Yeah. So you're performing live there for like 12 years in front of audiences. How long? I mean, were you doing it in college? No, I'm going back even before SNL.
Oh, okay.
You're doing improv in Chicago. Were you doing stuff like even before that? How long were you performing on stage for people?
I started when I started taking classes when I was 21.
Okay.
And then I got in a touring company when I was 22. And so I was performing for 6 years before I got in SNL.
And then you were on SNL for like 8?
8.
So it's 14 years of performing in front of audiences, and then all of a sudden you're off SNL, you're not doing it anymore. Was it just weird to, all of a sudden, you're not getting that adrenaline?
Yeah, totally weird. Yeah, and then I'd gone through a breakup, and I had an operation.
What was the operation?
For sleep apnea.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, in the middle of the night, I'd stop breathing, I'd wake up, insane. I think it's what killed that football player, White, that big Packers football player.
Oh, Reggie White.
Reggie White, yeah. He had sleep apnea and died like that.
Wow.
And so, people like that affected me, and I was like, I should go get this figured out. So I had all these things kind of happen at once. So I was watching a depression program on PBS, and they're like, 3 things that can factor into depression: losing your job, an operation, a breakup in a relationship. So that all kind of happened at the same time.
And you realized, like, oh, holy shit, I'm depressed?
Well, I always knew I was depressed, but then it really hit hard. Like, because then it's like, because you're uncertain about all these things at once. And then you come to California and you're like, okay, people are pitching shows and you're pitching ideas, but when you're working with these people at SNL and then you go to LA and work with these other people, it's just a way different situation, And so it feels like, I don't want to be an ass to these people, but I'm just not digging it.
Well, you were playing like on a 60-win NBA team, and now it's like, hey, come run with us. We play, and you're probably like,
but basically what I ended up doing was just kind of avoiding anything.
So you just checked out? I
kind of checked out because I was drinking a lot, and I was like, I needed time to stay away. But then I was kind of doing that thing where I would sabotage the auditions and not really. Like, I was trying to, like, not be fired from my agency, but also not take anything that was offered.
Yeah.
But it was just like, and then I quit drinking, so it was all like rebuilding after SNL. Because for SNL,
so how many years was that?
I put my whole life into it.
Yeah.
It was my number one. And, we were drinking, and it was like, every day was like filled, and then one day it's over, and then you got to kind of adjust. So, then I just went back and said, well, what my goal now is going to be what I find funny. What I want. I want my, people to go, oh, that guy's not just Gobi or not just Carol. I wanted because I have more to joke about. So that's kind of what I've been doing lately. And now it's culminated into, that's me over there. It's coming into my Horatio podcast.
Yeah. So when did you start that?
A month ago. And we got a write-up in Entertainment Weekly, and Seth was nice enough to have me on and talk about it. So we got a nice chunk of listeners. And it's all my friends in L.A., comedians come in. We do sketches, we do songs, we do phone
so
calls.
It's not just traditional podcasts. You're actually like trying to do stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like this lazy one where I just sit you in a chair and we stare at each other.
No, this is
you actually
not
put
like
thought
this.
into yours.
Well, my studio's in the basement, so I roll out of bed and I go downstairs and then we start recording. And so we record we record probably like 4 or 5 hours a show.
Really?
And then he edits it down.
And
So,
who is this attached to? Is this totally on your own, or are you attached
with
to
Earwolf? Earwolf's distributing
Smart.
it.
Okay.
And my friend Chad Kruger is the guy who does everything else. I speak and bring friends in.
So it's going to be like 1 hour a week? Like what's your goal?
It's about 40 to 45 minutes a week.
And you're just cramming it in, you have guests,
Yeah, and
sketches.
so we're going to go, I'm doing a show tonight here, and we're going to, maybe record people tomorrow in a hotel as they're coming out. Because all we really need is like just little bits and pieces. It's like a lot like that NPR show, the one they edit.
Right.
Yeah. So this.
So
Right
how
now we're
long
kind
did
of avoiding a format, and I think it's kind of working.
So how long did it take? Like it sounds like you went through some stuff after you left SNL. How many years was that? Like where you were just trying to rebuild your life, get it back together.
Like 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
What was the tipping point? Or what was the tipping point the other
all
way?
that happening, and I was just really unhealthy, and so and then it became, well, are you just not auditioning for stuff because you just rather be in bed?
Yeah. Right.
So then it became, I better just fix myself up before I die. Because,
But when did you start feeling good again?
Well, the 2 years after I quit drinking, I was much better.
Yeah.
Because then the 2 years of worrying about not drinking, kind of things get easier and easier. And so those 5 years were great because that's all I had to work on really was getting better. So I didn't give myself any you need to be on TV, you need to have a show. It was just just get better, lose the weight.
Right.
Because I was about to get diabetes, I had high blood pressure, and I saw it coming. The fat guy.
Well, and there that is like a weird legacy with that show to some degree, where like either the heavyset guy or the straight out fat guy, and he's life of the party guy, and then
he dies.
Yeah. Well, and then he starts living 24/7, going crazy, and
and I think a lot of that is just pressure that you put on yourself to be funny.
Yeah.
And just I'm not that funny off camera really. I mean, I am with friends, but I'm not constantly trying to make everyone laugh.
Right.
And that's what kind of guy Farley was, and
he was life of the party all the time. Funny.
Always.
Yeah.
He'd make one person laugh. He'd like to do a pratfall for one person.
You must have known him in Chicago, right?
I knew him briefly because his brother toured with me at Second City.
Yeah. Okay.
His brother Johnny.
So you caught him near the tail end then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
were you on the show when he hosted, or were you not there yet?
No, that was like the year before. I think that was in '97.
Yeah. Well, the podcast sounds fun. I'm going to check it out. I look forward to it.
Yeah, you definitely should. It's HoorayShow.com.
Okay. Find it on iTunes.
Find it on iTunes.
YouTube?
I don't know if YouTube, maybe.
All right. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I think that sounds really cool.
Thank you, man. I had a very pleasant time.
All right. Horatio Sanz, South by Southwest. We'll be back with more after this.
Target percent off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Podcenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.
Gotta say, Golick, great call on grabbing Subway for lunch and getting guacamole on our subs.
Told you this new guac really amps up the flavor.
Yep, something adding up things can be great. Guacamole on your sub, a new co-host to replace you.
What was that?
Oh, no, nothing.
Subway now has deliciously rich new guacamole made from ripe Hass avocados with just a hint of garlic, onion, and jalapeno. Discover how new guacamole turns up the flavor on any of your freshly made favorites. Subway, eat fresh.